Welcome to the course Guidelines for Dashboard Design. This is a course designed for the people who work on the development of dashboards, for the institutions that will enable them to verify strategic indicators of their data systems. We will start with Lesson 1 with some general ideas. And let me start by presenting a visualization that many of you probably remember from your childhood. This is the famous drawing from The Little Prince, the main character of the book entitled with that name. He shows it to a number of people and asks them, "What is this?" And all the grown-ups answer that this is a hat. And he tells them that this is not a hat, that it is a boa constrictor that has swallowed an elephant. And all the grown-ups insist that this is a hat, a hat, a hat. And when we look at the second drawing shown by the Little Prince, we see a clear example of a good visualization. Because if you remember the course on dashboard conceptualization, one of the main rules for good visualizations was that the work must be done by the eyes and not the brain. In the figure above, the brain must try to interpret what the artist meant. In the second one, it is obvious that the boa constrictor swallowed the elephant. This is an example of a good visualization. And this leads us to review the concept of a dashboard. There are many definitions, but we will use the one offered by Stephen Few, one of the most important authors in data visualizations. And Stephen Few says that a dashboard is a visual display of data. Ultimately, what matters is the data relevant to the users that are viewing the dashboard and that are trying to achieve their goals. A dashboard is built with a goal in mind, with an idea, a question that must be answered. Data can be presented to lead us to think about it, and the data on a dashboard is consolidated or arranged in such a way that it can be viewed from only one screen. And that is one of the main conditions that we should not forget about dashboards, and it is that all the data must be viewed on a single screen. In the case of dashboards, we don't want the user to scroll the screen up and down and to try to remember what was at the top or at the bottom and how to compare it. In this case, visualization must be limited to the boundaries of the screen. There are some components of visualization that, when they interact, give us a sense and meaning to the display. And I would like to share this diagram of an author called David McCandless, who is the site administrator of informationisbeautiful.net. He suggests that a good visualization must combine 4 elements. First, the visualization must be interesting, and this is related to the user. It is for the person that is viewing it. But it does not have to be interesting only. It must also have an element of integrity. Integrity is what tells the visualization that the data that you are viewing is reflected in a precise, accurate, and unaltered way. On the other hand, a dashboard must also have a clearly defined function. This function is what gives sense to it, what tells users what can work with their visualization, if there is interactivity, what operations can be carried out, and here the criteria of usability and ease of use are considered. And finally, visualizations must have form. They must be aesthetic, must be attractive. We might even say that they must be beautiful. Thus, in a visualization, we always try to achieve a balance between data and design. The fact that data is displayed is not enough. The design must also be pleasant. The design must be functional. For example, when we have a visualization that has form and integrity, but is not interesting, or is not functional or usable, we have a display that may be attractive, but this is not very useful, because it is not functional and because it is not interesting. On the other hand, we can have an interesting display with good functionality, but with no integrity and form. In this case, we have an interesting experiment, but something that ultimately is not useful, because it lacks integrity and does not truly represent data. Then the visualization becomes meaningless. And there are many combinations like that one. For example, we can have something that has form, function, and integrity, but that is not interesting, and then the display will be boring. In the end, this means that the balance between data and design and the real sense of our dashboard is achieved when we have a good balance between the four elements. When the visualization is interesting, relevant, when it makes sense to the user, when we can reflect the data comprehensively, accurately, and truthfully without any visual alteration, if we can make it attractive, aesthetically pleasant, and with the functionality and usability needed by the user, then we have a successful design of our visualization. And this is what we must always seek when we build dashboards. In brief then, visualizations must display the data unambiguously. They should always reflect the supporting data and should not lead to different interpretations, as in the case of the Little Princess drawing. On the other hand, it is important that all the data can be seen within the boundaries of our screen, so that the user has the comfort required to effectively compare one item with another one that we are representing. And the visualization should involve four components. It must be interesting, the data displayed must have integrity, and it must have a functionality that allows users to navigate and work with the data. And it must be aesthetically pleasant to the eyes. That ends the lesson. We introduce the basic concepts, and in the following chapters we will go deeper into how to design dashboards.